Welcome to Hope Brokers, everyone. I have Ryan Gardner with me. He is a trauma survivor. I think he has probably a pretty incredible story. I didn't do a lot of digging. I feel like God told me, actually, Ryan, that I was not going to be in control of this interview. So we'll see how it goes. So anyways, I came across your profile, and I had added you as a friend, and I saw that you were a life coach, which I love connecting to life coaches because typically when they have a story, they're inspiring. They typically have a lot of people that they are drawing in for some sort of inspiration, reason, whatever. You have that connection. And so, of course, I wanted to connect. I feel like minds, you surround yourself with the successful people, and that's just kind of, I guess, what drew me to you. But then you posted something 5 days ago that I'm going to have you read, because I feel like this is probably why we're connected. And I know that it's going to be very emotional for me because, well, I'll go into the story just a little bit, but I have a son named Talon, and
It's okay, Tawnia.
Thank you. He passed away 3 years ago in a rollover car accident on Thanksgiving Day. And he was going just over 80 miles per hour on Simcoe Road. It's a road out here that's got a couple of bends, but there's one turn that if you're going too fast, I mean, I've gone too fast around it a few times and never at the speed that he was. And it really catches you off guard. But I was reading your post, and it just kind of took me back to, I'm actually going to let you read it. Actually, let's just go ahead and read it. I'm going to read my piece, and then we'll kind of go from there, because I'll bring together the connection. I think that'll work better. So when you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, and this could be an emotional time for me as well. So
that's how God works, right? Through emotion.
Yeah, and it's okay. Emotions are good to express. So
I agree.
20 years ago today, my life was taken away. I was face to face with death. With no detectable vital signs, I laid motionless for 45 minutes on a cold early morning in mud on the side of the road. The vehicle I was comfortably traveling in ejected me from the sunroof as it spun airborne at 90 miles per hour. For 6 weeks, I relied on machines for oxygen and hoses to feed my body. I could no longer breathe, eat, speak, move, feel, or see. My blood loss exceeded 40 units. The injuries sustained had left me departed and immobile. My brain had suffered damage due to the impact. The severity of the damage was uncertain. I was lifeless. The room was sparkly white, clean and bright, as I witnessed several people in green scrubs frantically, yet very strategically, surrounding a bed, doing all they could to save a life. Methodic, orderly chaos. They were screaming. I was hearing from below, but watching and listening from above. I was no longer Ryan. I was Trauma Victor. I remember standing in a cylindrical room. It felt underground. No roof, just cobblestone walls and a dirt floor. A worn-out wooden staircase led to a landing adjacent to a closed door where several people were standing. Silhouettes of human bodies standing still, watching me and waiting. Some adult in size, others children. Sitting in front of me at a table was a calm, loving, clothed in a glowing white gown woman with long, illuminated blonde hair. There was no eye contact between us. I could not see her face or hear her voice, but her message was clear. I had one of two choices. With either choice, I felt an indescribable sense of peace. Fear did not exist here. There was no pain. It did not exist either. Only love, peace, harmony, and comfort. Without speaking a word, I made my choice, and my choice was granted. I remember vividly the silhouettes of the people standing on the landing up at the top of the stairs, and they were speaking quite loudly to me.
Do you remember what they were
But
saying?
it wasn't audible. They were speaking to me energetically. I could feel them, and I could feel.
How would you describe the energy that you felt?
Wow, I felt there. It was a peaceful energy, but I knew that there was a long road ahead of me. I knew that to follow that path was not going to be easy, but I knew it would be worth it because I had work to do. I wasn't finished. So I had some brain injury that was more towards the center of my brain, which was kind of ironic to me. But it was the type of injury where they were telling my family, you should probably get your house ADA accessible and plan on him. There's a high likelihood that he will be, in a wheelchair, and he'll need to be taken care of for the rest of, whatever life he has left. I also broke my back. I broke all my ribs. My ribs punctured my lungs. And I sustained a grade 5 liver laceration, which means my liver basically exploded when I hit the ground. I broke my left arm and then had a few other minor injuries along with that. During my hospital stay, I developed a condition called ARDS, which is acute respiratory distress syndrome.
Is that like asthma? Does it feel like asthma? Is it more like an anxiety thing?
It's a respiratory condition to where the oxygen that is going into your lungs is not getting to your bloodstream. So it was one thing that my lungs were damaged and had holes in them and were filling with fluid. But it was another thing that the oxygen that they were pumping into me through a trach was not getting to my blood as well. So they put me on a bed, and I don't really know I think I was on that bed for 4 or 5 days. I remember my family telling me that when they told them that I had ARDS, that I was going south rather quickly. And Tawnia, I don't recall how far into my 6 weeks at the hospital that I developed ARDS. I'm not sure. I think it was a couple weeks after. So, I mean, even being in there for the first couple weeks was extremely traumatic for my family, not knowing if I was going to make this and, being on complete life support. And then all of a sudden I developed this condition they call ARDS. And they say, 30% of people who develop ARDS survive. The rest of them don't. But your son is relatively young. He's healthy. We'll see if he can fight through this. I was living a lifestyle that definitely put me on the edge quite often.
At risk.
Yeah. There had been, a car accident prior, when I was in my early 20s and things like that, but nothing that left me in this type of condition. But, there were times where I was definitely living in the fast lane and, but no near-death experiences. No, there was, it gets a little personal, and I wasn't really planning on going there, but I will. As a teenager, I suffered from some pretty severe depression, and suicide was always an option to me. COVID has been very difficult. I've watched my coaching business increase significantly, and 70% of our communication is nonverbal, which means we're hugging people, we're seeing people. When we're wearing masks, we're not seeing smiles anymore. We're not seeing facial expressions anymore. Families are separating and isolating themselves. And even when you are out in the public and I know it's kind of calmed down a little bit now, but, during the heat of this, people were out in public and all you were seeing were eyes. And eyes are the windows to our soul, to our spirit. And you could see, at least myself, I could notice so many people walking around living, but looking into their eyes, they were lifeless.
I appreciate you sharing that personal piece. I really do think that it's relevant, though, and that is a huge part of who Talon was. I mean, he had gone to attempt suicide, and thankfully there was a miracle involved there. And
yeah, I think there's an element of shame that comes with those thoughts, and I'm quite confident that the majority of people have thought about it, but to act on it. Yeah, at some point, to some degree. But when a person gets to the point to where they're ready to act on it, that's a whole nother level, a whole nother layer of darkness that person has entered.
Yeah, they say when there's a plan in place, that's not that it's never serious. It's should always be taken serious. But yes,
Absolutely.
When there's a plan, that's. To me, that's the tell-all, right? A plan is a very scary sign that things have taken a turn into, like, this is now going to happen. They're making a plan. And so, yeah, I appreciate you talking about it because it is sensitive, it is taboo, and I think especially for men, you're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to say, I'm weak, I need help. You're not allowed to say, I'm struggling. You're not allowed to say, I am scared right now. And so I understand that. And I again, just appreciate the willingness and openness to talk about it. With also, you're right, the negative stuff's what keeps you down. But when we start talking that negative that keeps us down, we have to also remember that's where the positive self-talk comes in. I started, when I started the negative self-talk, I started telling myself out loud to shut up. I would tell myself out loud to shut up because it would draw attention to the behavior, right? And to the point where it just became, it stopped because I would call attention to it. But I also would replace that with the things that I love about myself. People talk about journaling gratitude, the things that we're thankful for. It's the same with the things that we're thankful for in ourselves. We have to look for the beauty within ourselves and self-love. When we gratitude our
we exist, it's a duality. Things that exist on polar ends. Without the suffering, you don't know the joy.
Yes.
The sadness, you don't know the happiness.
Yes.
Without knowing the darkness, you don't know the light. And so I'm thankful for those times. When I find myself even in today, if I find myself suffering, I embrace that and I welcome it because I know on the other side what it looks like. I know what it feels like to come out of this. And as long as I resist that suffering and I try to run from it, it's always going to be chasing me. Once I stop running, it can't chase. It can't run after me. I stop, I sit with it, and I don't just sit with it, Tawnia, I embrace it. And I hold it and I listen to what it's telling me. And the majority of our triggers are subconscious. We don't even really know them. I mean, we may know that something is triggering us and making us feel uncomfortable, but what's triggering us is usually a suppressed emotion from years and years and years ago that, is now whenever we hear something or we feel something or even taste something or smell something, it can trigger that suppressed subconscious emotion and it brings it to the conscious. And now we're thinking about it and we're triggered and we're like, oh my gosh, I've got to get rid of this. I got to get this out of here. I got to push it away. What do I need to do? I'm going to go to work. I'm going to work more. I'm going to go, do whatever I can to deflect this or distract it or to cover it up rather than sitting down and going, no, I'm going to feel this trigger and I'm going to sit with it because it's a message. It's my internal knowing reaching out to me saying something needs to be healed here.
Absolutely.
Am I going
Don't
to
you feel
sit with it and let it heal and go through this process, or am I going to push it back down and keep that wound wide open? I have moments that are more intense than others, but when I can wake up every morning and know that my day is uncertain, that I don't know what I'm going to face every single day.
Yeah.
And to be able to find peace in uncertainty gives me a sense of euphoria that never goes away. Because life is full of suffering. I mean, it's inevitable. It's part of living. And so when you can embrace that suffering as a lesson or an opportunity for growth or an opportunity to move forward or to learn something, you can find euphoria even in suffering. You can find pleasure even in suffering. Find gratitude in it. Right? I mean, we're human. We can still feel the pain, and it's essential to feel that pain. But so even inside that pain, you can feel behind that the euphoria and the pleasure that's going to come after. You know, it's always darkest before the dawn, and we need to remember that. We always need to remember that.
Yeah.
I would say that there's nothing that you have to earn. That the simple fact that you're here is a miracle. We're all miracles, those of us that are here, those of us that came before and those of us that are coming after. You know, and that comes right down to the moment of conception. When I was racing 5 million other sperm to my mother's fertile egg, and I was the one that won. I was the one that landed, and it's a miracle that I was here. And the very fact that we're born and we are alive and we are given life, with that comes worth. With that comes love. With that comes anything and everything that you feel like you're lacking, you are born with. It's already inside of you. And so, yes, as a life coach, that's what I do is I pull that out of people. I pull out of them what is already in them, but they've lost touch with it. What is my purpose? I think we all serve a lot of purposes. And I think my purpose is to live intentionally and to live with purpose.
I love that because I've said that 1,000 times, like to live life on purpose and with purpose. I felt like Talon, that's who he was, you know, everything, even relationships are intentional. 100%, I'm going to give 100% of myself to you right now in this moment. Yeah. And when life becomes about that intention, a lot of doors open, right? And I feel like God just kind of pours into us. One thing that you said earlier is that we all have purpose and we're all important. And I just want to also echo that, but say we must remember that we are God's children. We are capable of so much. It's limitless what we're capable of through God. And I feel like as long as we keep him in mind and we are doing his work, so many doors become open and we are worthy and blessings will continue to be poured on us. I don't know. I feel like it's God's world, right? God's world, God's work. And when we do his work with the living and intention, we get blessed and we feel that joy and euphoria. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian,
blessings every day. Every day there's something to be grateful for.
I agree. And that's another, I feel like that is another characteristic of survivors. That survivor mentality is finding the blessings in everyday life, finding blessings even in the storms, there are blessings, right? Even in the storms, we have people who love us and who are supporting us and who are here for us. And even in storms, we still have a loving Heavenly Father who listens to us and provides for us and sends angels our way, you know, in the form of Ryan Gardner to share his story and offer hope and inspiration to so many people. I appreciate you being on. Again, it just feels like a parallel to Talon, I think.
Thank you. I'm happy to serve, Tawnia. I'm happy to serve, and it's incredible to listen to your story, and I'm excited about this connection. It's not coincidental.
Talon was a strong spirit, and he was a loving spirit, and I see that in you as well. And I just, again, I feel like seeing you. I see, you've done 20 years of work, and I know that he made the choice to go. I know he's doing work on the other side of it, but I know that he connected us, and I know that through your work, you're going to continue to inspire so many people. And I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you chose to stay. I'm grateful for the connection to my son. I love talking about him. And I think there's so many subjects that, when you're dealing with trauma and you're dealing with surviving and you're dealing with pain and suffering and even inspiring and motivating other people around you, there's so many good golden nuggets that people need to hear about, from writing journals to self-love to gratitude to all of those things matter. Even the things we tell ourselves and the people we surround ourselves with, the things that we listen to, radio, TV, all that stuff matters. There's so many subjects that can help people in healing, in positivity, in making sure that they're living the best quality life based on their mindset, paradigm, and how they choose to see and feel about things. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
there's a lot of resources available, and a lot of them are, I would say, a big part of your number one resource is going inside of who you are.
Yeah, it's so true.
Self-awareness.
And being connected, I really think being connected to God, not just like listening to, being connected inside 100%, but also allowing God to work through you in that connection. It's so powerful. Anyways, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate you.
Thank
I hope
you,
you have
Tawnia. I was honored to do this, and absolutely reach out anytime.